you something that happened to me. Something I've never said out loud all the way through. Not with every detail. Once I tell you, I think you'll understand why. There was a house. A big, quiet house in a Houston suburb. And inside it, something lived that was never introduced to us by name. Let me start from the beginning. It was the summer of 2019. I was going into my junior year at a university outside Houston, and like a lot of students, I picked up a short internship to fill the break. Nothing glamorous. A small freight and import office off the Southwest Freeway, near the rail yards. The kind of place that clears container shipments coming through the port of Houston. Textiles, auto parts, the occasional container of furniture. 3 months, decent pay, mostly data entry and answering phones under fluorescent lights that buzzed a little too loud. That's where I met him. I'll call him Rayan. That wasn't his real name, but it's close enough for you to picture him. Rayan started about 2 weeks after I did. He was maybe 21, tall, thin in a way that looked more like neglect than fitness, with a stillness to him that made people in the break room lower their voices without knowing why. And the first thing anyone noticed was his clothes. 2 collared shirts, 1 gray, 1 navy, and a single pair of khakis he rotated with a pair of dark jeans. Every day, some combination of the same 4 items, always clean, always a little too big on him, like they'd been bought for someone with more weight to fill them out. Later, I found out his family had money. Real money. His father had built the freight business from almost nothing after moving to Texas from Amman back in the 90s. Which made the clothes stranger. A boy from a house with a 3-car garage, showing up to an internship looking like he owned almost nothing. He was quiet in a specific way. Not shy. Shy people fidget, laugh nervously, look at their shoes. Rayan didn't do any of that. He watched. He'd let a silence sit in a conversation for 4-5 seconds past comfortable, and when he finally spoke, his voice stayed level. Almost too level, like a man holding something down with both hands and had gotten good at it. There's a kind of anger some people carry that never comes out as shouting. You just feel it sitting behind their eyes, patient, like it's willing to wait you out. That was Rayan. A few of us tried to loosen him up. Me and a girl from the billing department I'll call Amara, whose parents had come from Lahore before she was born. We'd invite him to get lunch at the taco truck in the parking lot next door, ask him dumb questions about music or football just to get a reaction. Slowly, something like a friendship started to form, the kind built more out of proximity than real closeness. Then, about 5 weeks in, on a Thursday I remember because our office AC broke and everyone was in a bad mood, he invited us to his house. "Come by this weekend," he said. "We'll do a barbecue in the backyard. My dad's got a smoker." I remember thinking, sure, why not? Free food, air conditioning, a chance to see how the other half lived out past the toll road. Amara said yes too, along with 2 other interns. The house was in a gated section of a suburb west of the city, the kind of neighborhood where every lawn gets watered by an automatic sprinkler system, and the streets are named things like Cypress Hollow Court. When we pulled up Saturday evening, I actually let out a low whistle, because the place was enormous, even by that neighborhood standards. A brick facade with white columns, a circular driveway, a fountain out front that wasn't running, green with algae along the basin. Rayan was waiting for us out on the lawn, and behind him, a full setup. A big offset smoker already going, a folding table dressed in a plastic checkered cloth with plates, a cooler of canned drinks, foil trays of dessert already sitting out, sweating slightly in the Texas heat. "Anybody else coming?" I asked, looking around at the empty driveway. "No," he said. "Just you guys." That should have been my first flag. It wasn't. I was 20 and hungry, and and the smoke smelled like brisket and hickory. We ate out there for almost 2 hours, the cicadas going in the trees behind the fence, string lights clicking on automatically as the sky went orange and then navy. Rayan was almost relaxed outside, cracking a joke here and there in that flat, dry way of his, the kind of humor that makes you laugh half a second before you're sure you're supposed to. When we finished, he said, "Come see my room. It's upstairs." And this is where it starts. We walked from the patio through a side door into what must have been a formal living room, and it was completely dark. Not dim, dark. Blinds drawn, not one lamp on anywhere in a house that size. And under the dark, there was a smell. That specific smell a room gets when the air hasn't moved in a long time. Dust and something stale underneath it. Carpet that hadn't felt a vacuum in months. "Keep it down going up," Rayan said, already halfway up the stairs. "Everybody's asleep." It was 9:15 on a Saturday. We turned on our phone flashlights and followed him up a wide staircase with a wrought iron railing. I ran my hand along the banister and it came away gray with dust, a full print on my palm. Dust on a staircase in a house where they'd apparently just fired up a smoker an hour earlier. His room upstairs had a gaming setup along one wall, monitor glowing blue-white in the dark, and that screen was the only light he allowed. I asked why he didn't just flip the switch by the door. "We don't really use the lights up here," he said, like that was a full and reasonable answer, and moved on before I could ask why. We sat around a while, the four of us on a leather sectional that smelled faintly of the same staleness as downstairs. Amara and I kept trading a look. You know the one. The "are you feeling this too" look. There was a small balcony off his room, sliding glass door, and at some point I told them I needed air. I stepped out. From up there I could see straight down into the backyard. The folding table where we'd just eaten 20 minutes before. It was bare, wiped clean, plates gone, the checkered cloth gone, even the cooler nowhere in sight. Like a crew had come through with a truck and cleared the whole setup in under half an hour, without a sound, without headlights in the driveway. I went back inside and mentioned it. Did somebody already break everything down out back? We just ate there. The housekeeper, probably, he said, not looking up from his phone. Housekeeper. In 3 months of knowing him, I would never once see this person, or anyone else who worked in that house. He went down to grab us waters, and while he was gone, Amara and I sat there without talking, just looking around the half-lit room. There was a walk-in closet near the bathroom door, curtained off with a heavy panel of fabric instead of an actual door. As we sat there, and I want to be exact about this, the curtain slid to one side. Evenly, smoothly, the way a hand pulls a curtain back to check something behind it. There was no vent nearby, no fan running, no draft. Nobody was standing anywhere near it. We didn't say a word. We just stood up and headed for the stairs. Rayan met us halfway up, 2 water bottles in hand, condensation already beating on the plastic, and we told him we had to head out. He didn't push back. He walked us to the driveway and said goodnight like absolutely nothing unusual had happened. We never talked about that night out loud, not really. But something shifted. From then on, when Rayan invited us over, and he did, constantly, almost weekly, there was a small, cold weight that sat in my stomach before I ever said yes. And I kept saying yes. We went back 3, maybe 4 more times that summer and into the fall. Movie nights mostly. Once he insisted on a low-budget horror film that had picked up some reputation online, people online swearing something happened to a string of people who'd watched it late at night. We thought it'd be funny to test it out in his dark house instead of anywhere sane. Looking back, we should have read that as a warning about the house, not the movie. Every visit had the same shape. The side gate to the backyard would already be unlatched when we arrived, though he swore he hadn't touched it before we pulled in. The inside of the house stayed dark except for a screen glow or our flashlights, no matter the hour. He'd remind us, every single time, to keep our voices down and our steps light, because his family was sleeping. In 4 visits spread across several months, I never once saw his parents. Never saw a sibling. Never saw a housekeeper, a landscaper, anyone who might explain a lawn that stayed perfectly edged in 90-degree heat with no one ever out there mowing it. According to Rayan, he had a younger sister, an older brother finishing school out of state, both parents living there full-time, and staff who ran the household day to day. I believed all of it the way you believe anything a friend tells you about their own home. No proof required, because why would you doubt something that mundane? One evening, sitting at our kitchen island telling my mom about all of this, casually, the way you'd bring up anything a little odd about a friend from work, a text came through on my phone. Just 2 words. "Hey, stranger." I showed her the screen. She got quiet for a second, set down the spoon she was holding, and said, "I don't like this. Stay away from that boy." I laughed it off, told her, "Come on, it's not like he's invisible in photos. We've got pictures with him from lunch. He shows up fine on camera like anybody else." We joked about it after that, nervously, the way you joke about things you don't actually want to sit with for too long. Then Amara started spending time with him outside the group, one-on-one. And somehow, without any of us clocking exactly when it happened, they started dating. When a couple of us tried to bring it up gently, just saying something about him felt off, nothing accusatory, she didn't take it well, stopped answering our group chat, blocked most of us within a week. Whether it was love or stubbornness or something we didn't have the full picture of, I honestly couldn't tell you. 2 months later, we heard through a mutual friend that they'd gotten married at a courthouse in Fort Bend County. We weren't invited, none of us. After that, I finished the internship and moved on with my own life. Senior year, job applications, all of it, and mostly stopped thinking about Rayan and that house on Cypress Hollow Court. Until almost 2 years later, a message came through. Not from him, from her. It was strange seeing her name pop back up after that long a silence. I didn't follow her back right away, but she messaged me first. "Hey, long time. Can we talk sometime?" We traded a few normal messages. From her posts over the past year, I could already tell something had shifted. The captions, the tone, a photo here and there with her hand angled just slightly to hide something on her wrist. Eventually, I asked her straight out, and she told me they'd separated back in the spring. I asked why. "He was violent," she said, "almost from the first week we lived there." She said he had anger issues, real ones, and that things started almost immediately after the wedding. I told her, as gently as I could, that we'd tried to say something back when they were dating. She went quiet again after that, disappeared for a long stretch, read receipts with nothing behind them. Then, out of nowhere, she asked if we could meet in person. I brought along one of the other old interns, the one who'd also known Rayan back at the freight office. We met Amara at a diner off Highway 6, a Denny's with bad coffee and worse lighting. And the first thing she said to us wasn't hello. "If he ever tries to reach either of you," she said, "don't answer, don't follow him back. Cut it off the second you see his name." We told her we had no interest in that, not after everything. "I need to tell you why I left," she said, turning her coffee cup slowly on the table without drinking any of it. "I haven't told my own mother the real version, but you two were there at the start, so you should hear it. There are things in that house," she said. "The staff Rayan always talked about. They were never people." I remember letting out a small, assuming she meant it as some kind of dark metaphor for how he treated her. "Did either of you ever go into the front sitting room? Past the entry hall, to the left?" We told her no. In 4 visits, we'd only ever seen his bedroom, the stairs, and the backyard. Everything else in that house had stayed dark, unexplored, off limits without either of us ever having to be told. "It's a big room," she said, "and inside there are rows of folding cots, 10, maybe 12, lined up against the walls like an old dormitory or a shelter. That door stays locked, always. She said that according to Rayan, that room was where they stayed. Not staff in the ordinary sense, something inherited, passed down through his father's side of the family from back in Jordan, tied to the house and the family line more than to any single living person. The food would just be there, she told us. I'd walk into the kitchen around 6 and dinner would already be plated, rice made, bread warm, a salad sitting in the fridge with plastic wrap already pulled tight over the bowl. I never once saw a hand do it. She said the laundry came back from the dryer already folded and put away, hangers spaced evenly in her closet, without her ever running the machine herself some weeks. At first, I actually thought it was sweet, she said. I thought maybe there really was a housekeeper who worked overnight, somebody shy who didn't want to be seen. He had that dry sense of humor, you remember. I thought it was a joke he was slow walking. But it kept happening, every single day, and there was never anyone there to explain it. Then she told us about the arguments. He never touched me himself, she said. Not with his own hand, not once. But during a fight, I'd feel a slap land across my face out of nowhere. My hair would get yanked from behind when there was nobody behind me. I'd be sitting perfectly still and suddenly get shaken, hard, by nothing at all. Scratch marks would show up on my arm, my cheek, nail marks, the kind that take 2 or 3 weeks to fully fade. She said his family had been against the marriage from day one, and because she'd gone against her own parents to marry him at a courthouse with no ceremony, she felt like she couldn't even tell them what was really happening inside that house without it sounding like some kind of confession. She said the only relative she ever actually saw in person was his father, who kept to a single room off the kitchen and almost never came out, not even for a family dinner the whole 6 months she lived there. The rest of his scattered family did show up eventually, for a small gathering months after the courthouse wedding. His mother, who lived across town with her sister, his younger sister, his older brother who was back in Texas by then working oil and gas. All of them appeared for that one dinner. None of them lived in that house on Cypress Hollow Court. In the entire 6 months of that marriage, Amara had been the only woman under that roof, aside from whatever else she never actually saw. 2 days after that meeting at the diner, I got a follow request on Instagram. No profile photo, no posts, 1 follower, nothing but a username that was clearly his first name with a string of numbers after it. I hadn't given that number to anyone new in over a year. I hadn't spoken to Rayan directly since that internship ended. I screenshotted it and sent it to Amara. She replied almost instantly. Block him right now. Don't respond. And honestly, keep some distance from me too for a while. I think he's still trying to reach me through people I used to know. She said she still felt watched sometimes, even after moving back in with her parents in a completely different part of the city. Certain nights, she said, she'd wake up certain someone else was standing in the room with her, gone the second she turned on the lamp. I told my mom everything eventually, the full version this time, sitting at that same kitchen island almost 3 years later. She just said, stay away from all of it. People who spend enough time near something like that end up carrying a little piece of it home with them, whether they mean to or not. I want to tell you 2 more things before I let this go. The very first time I ever went to that house, before any of what Amara told us came out, I stepped onto that upstairs balcony alone for a minute of air. Below me, on a lower section of roof over the garage, I saw children playing. 4 or 5 of them, small, running in loose circles, in that high, breathless way kids do. Rayan didn't have any siblings young enough to be children. There were no kids living in that house, not according to anything he'd ever told us. I went back inside almost immediately and never mentioned it to him. The second thing happened almost a year after I'd cut off all contact for good. My phone rang late one night, a number with no name attached, area code I didn't recognize, not local. I picked up out of pure reflex before I could think better of it. Nobody spoke, just breathing, slow and even, on the other end, for almost a full minute before the line went dead on its own. I never got a call like that again. I've never driven back out to that neighborhood either, though I still think about the shape of that gate, always unlatched before anyone's hand ever touched it. Like something on the other side had already been standing there, waiting to let us in. I don't know exactly what Rayon's family kept in that house, or what kept them there. I only know that whatever it was, it never needed to be seen to be felt. And some nights, when my apartment gets quiet enough, I still catch myself listening for footsteps that shouldn't be there.